The legendary Egyptian Museum is the oldest archaeological museum in the Middle East containing the largest collection of pharaonic Egyptian artifacts in the world. I visited this museum over 25 years ago, and I vividly remember at the time being flabbergasted that these priceless antiquities were crammed together in such a tight space without cordons or glass to keep people from touching them, and without air conditioning to maintain their physical integrity. It's the only place that I've ever been to where anybody could just casually reach over and put their hands on a 5,000-year-old priceless treasure. The museum was originally founded in 1858 and moved to its current location from 1897 to 1902. The first floor displays giant figures and heavy objects found in temples and monuments. The upper levels contain mummies, sarcophagi, and other artifacts. Although most of King Tut's treasures have been moved to the Grand Egyptian Museum, King Tut's golden mask is still displayed in the museum in a smaller gallery space where photography is not allowed. The golden throne of King Tut is also on display. The image on the back of the throne shows King Tut sitting on a chair while his wife, Queen Ankhensenamun, applies perfume to his collar. All the while, the sun disk Aten shines brightly above them. There are countless grand and impressive artifacts on display in the museum. My favorite piece is quite likely one of the smallest pieces. It's a small ivory statue of Khufu that stands only about 7.5 centimeters tall. It is the only complete statue of the king who built the Great Pyramid of Giza. I like it so much because the tiny size of the statue contrasts sharply with the grandness of the Great Pyramid. The statue was discovered in 1903 by the archaeologist Sir William Matthew Flinders Petrie. It was discovered in two parts, first the body followed by the head 3 weeks later. It's ironic that only this tiny likeness remains of the king Khufu, the creator of the grandest and most impressive pyramid of ancient Egypt. The Egyptian Museum is impossible to make sense of without an able guide. The sheer number of pieces on display is enough to make your head spin. Our guide, Hanan, helped us to navigate through the museum and explain the most significant pieces alongside information about the pharaohs and gods and stories related to the artifact's discovery. One could easily spend a lifetime admiring and learning about the pieces in this museum. The second most famous museum in Cairo is the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization, or NMEC. Officially opened in 2021, this museum is the younger, hipper cousin of the Egyptian Museum. The museum is modern, air-conditioned, and contains 50,000 artifacts from prehistoric times to modern-day Egypt. It's not an overly large museum, rather it feels comfortable and manageable to explore over a few hours visit. We were guided through this museum by a passionate and knowledgeable guide, Ayman. Ayman had extremely deep knowledge of Egyptian history from the pharaonic age through to modern times. He was the perfect accompaniment on our visit to this museum. He spoke in great detail about ancient Egypt and all of the subsequent periods in Egypt's tumultuous history, from the Ptolemaic, Roman, Byzantine, Islamic, Ottoman, and colonial periods all the way through to Egypt as a republic. Altogether, Egypt's recorded history spans more than 5,000 years. There were several statues that we saw that were particularly memorable. First, a granite statue made for Ramses II. Ramses II is also known as Ramses the Great and was one of the most powerful pharaohs of ancient Egypt. He reigned for 66 years, from 1303 to 1213 BC, as the third ruler in the 19th dynasty. Ramses's reign was a time of great prosperity and wealth, as evidenced by the prolific temple and monument building that took place. In the statue, Ramses II is wearing the traditional attire for a pharaoh, the headdress with a cobra. He has the pharaonic beard, a fake beard worn as a symbol of wisdom. In his hand, he's holding a handkerchief in this case, but in other statues, he holds the royal seal. Another statue that stands out is the statue of Akhenaten, who ruled Egypt from 1351 to 1334 BC as the 10th ruler of the 18th dynasty. Akhenaten is holding the crook and flail, symbols of power and authority. Interestingly, he is depicted as both masculine, long face and straw jawline, and feminine, narrow waist, swollen stomach, and wide hips. He is made to appear very different from the look favored by other pharaohs who came before him. The reason is believed to be connected to the new religion he was introducing, abandoning the traditional pantheon of gods in favor of a single god, Aten, or solar disk. Akhenaten was also the father of Tutankhamun. After a tour of the main gallery, it was time to descend to the lower level to the Mummies Hall. The NMEC is most well known for its mummy collection of 22 mummies, comprised of 18 kings and 4 queens who reigned from the 17th to 20th dynasties during the New Kingdom. These mummies were moved from the Egyptian Museum to the NMEC in an event called Pharaoh's Golden Parade during the inauguration of the museum. Originally, the mummies were found in 2 mummy caches in Luxor, where priests had removed them from their original burial tombs in the Valley of the Kings and stored them in other tombs to protect them from grave robbers. Upon entering the Mummies Hall, the rooms were dark, almost crypt-like, and visitors were encouraged to speak softly. Photography is not permitted in the Mummy Gallery. It is surprising how well preserved the mummies are after 3,000 years. After the initial fascination of being inches away from a mummy abated, it was possible to observe carefully what we were seeing. An ethereal quality emanated from the delicate facial features with expressions frozen for eternity. Fingers and toes are all perfectly intact, leading the mind to imagine an ever so small movement, a twitch, from the preserved digits and limbs. On the heads of the queens, it's possible to make out the hairstyle, whether the hair was plaited or loose. These bodily remains were once filled with life and power by the rulers of an ancient and sophisticated civilization. For our eyes to gaze upon these mummies is a trespass through time. After spending our morning suspended in a timeless plane, we descended to the mortal world of the present day. We proceeded to a local koshery joint to enjoy the dish that has become one of our family favorites in Cairo. Koshery is considered Egypt's national dish, and even to non-Egyptians, it's easy to see that this is comfort food. It's made with a mixture of rice, pasta, lentils, chickpeas, and topped with tomato sauce. My favorite part is the crispy fried onions that are used as an added topping, and the dish is only complete with the final drizzle of garlic vinegar and hot sauce.